Choose not to live in a world of filters. Realize your mistakes. Set the foundation for your success. Get some wins. Knucklehead Podcast.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? This is the Knucklehead Stephen Colin. Wanted to get everybody this quick message. Chris asked me to put this together for a couple of reasons. One, I think that I was supposed to start about 2 or 3 minutes ago, and for the event itself, I ran into a few technical difficulties and was in Safari, and it come to find out you're supposed to be in Chrome whenever you do this. So for those of you who do this next, be in Chrome. I'll just put it to you that way. Listen, no, the reason why I wanted to get this message out is a couple things. In my experience, just a quick background on me, spent almost 10 years in the Marine Corps. In that time in the Marine Corps, I was a logistician. I was attached to an infantry battalion. I was also attached to an engineering battalion deployed to Iraq 2008, 2009 with an infantry battalion. And in my experience getting ready for deployments, or in my experience getting ready for what we would call ops, our operations, port ops, or HSVs, or anything related to the military, the idea behind preparation, it was drilled into us over and over and over again that unless you were prepared, you weren't. I mean, you have to have a plan. If you don't have a plan, then plan to fail, right? And going into the civilian world, the whole hypercritical nature of planning was so overemphasized that you felt as if you didn't have everything in order ahead of time, that you were just going to be an eventual failure. And so in my experience, guys, and y'all can leave me a comment here, you're welcome to chime in from time to time. But one thing that I thought was very, very important was instead of getting what you plan for, you get what you focus on. And that's what I found to be true here in the civilian world. Right. So whenever we got out of the military, my plan was to work a job for a period of time while I built a business. Did things go according to plan? No. I mean, there was a situation where because I was running the play of what I had planned out before I joined the Marine Corps, before I got out of the Marine Corps, of having a business and then having a job, that whole setup in itself got flipped on its head. It was a terrible set of circumstances where, you have to go out and make some things happen. But the reason why I wanted to talk about focusing on what you can control is because when I got out of the military, it didn't feel as if I had control on anything, even though I had a plan. When I got out of the military and I started working that plan, it didn't feel as if I had control on anything. It seems like every time I took action on something, you were taking steps back. So the reason why I wanted to focus right here on this message of focus on what you can control, it gives you the ability to measure, okay, if I take an action, there's going to be an equal or opposite reaction. Now, if I try to go out and do a business, or if I go out and try to take action in a marketplace, and all of a sudden the behavior of what it is that I'm doing, I'm trying to control other people, or I'm trying to influence other people, and all of a sudden I don't get the reaction I'm looking for, oh my gosh, then it's like, where's the stability coming from? There's no stability in the civilian world. The only thing that's going to be stable is your ability to go out there and produce. If you have a vehicle that you're spending your time, energy, and resources going out and building. So for instance, whenever I first started my business, getting out of the military, I was in personal training, group fitness, and then we decided that corporate wellness would be a good market to go get into here in Austin. So we started building out a corporate wellness piece to our business. And what I started to develop when I was going through that process of confusion was some confidence about that whole process. I started to develop some confidence about my ability to go out there and sell the program, my ability to go out there and produce a desired result and an income. As you develop confidence, as you're going through the process, you'll start to develop some competence. There's always going to be outside circumstances that try to affect your ability to produce, even when you're developing consistency. So the reason why it's so important to pay attention to solely what you can focus on, as opposed to what those outside market conditions are saying, is you're the only one who's going to be able to respond accordingly, or you're the only one that can actually respond and have an adequate plan in order to move forward. So if you focus on what a customer is saying, and you don't change, you won't have that customer for long. If you take your time and you focus, you allow other people to influence your behavior, your actions, or you don't take the right next steps, you're not going to be able to allocate internal resources for training and for teaching your people what they need to do or how they need to react to certain situations. And the reason why this is important is, as you're building your civilian career, as you exit the military, different types of businesses, different types of customers act completely differently. But until you go out there and you put yourself out there and you work with startups, or you go out there and you work with, enterprise level, executive level management at a multi-billion-dollar multinational conglomerate, until you work with those people and understand how that organization works and how they make decisions, you're always going to go out there and just try to be reactive, especially if you're in sales. Your process and the game plan that you follow, you need to be able to be sure on how you're going to move something forward. Now, when your plan goes haywire and all of a sudden you start, everybody's got a great plan until you get punched in the face. I think I've heard some fighters use that analogy before. That's exactly what business, and that's exactly what the civilian world is like. Life's going to punch you right in the face. So instead of planning like it's not going to happen, just have a plan of how things will happen, of what happens when that does happen. You may lose income for a period of time. What's your decision-making capability at that point in time? What do you go back and try to recalibrate your decision-making? What do you do? So what we had to do was we had to rely on books, we had to rely on mentors, we had to go rely on making mistakes. And that's what I'm going to encourage you to do. If you don't take the time to review your mistakes, if you don't take the time to go and adequately adjust for the changes that will take place, you're not going to be in business for long. What's cool about today, or what's cool about the information that's out there, our ability to go out there and access information, what's unique is you were trained in the military to deal with when things got crazy. You were willing to go out there and put your life on the line, not only for your country, but for your family. And when you get out, it's kind of bizarre when you think about how little risk tolerance you actually have when you pull away that rug of stability, or you pull away that framework. We had I don't know if any of y'all are fans of MMA, but Tim Kennedy was on our podcast a couple of days ago, and he said, "You already were trained. What are you talking about when you rip the framework away? When you're in the military, you're trained how to deal with adversity. When you're in life, you're trained how to deal with adversity. You were given the skill set. You were given the framework, the game plan on how to deal with things." Somebody just wrote here, said a plan is only good the day it's written and crap every day after. That's exactly, you know what? You first had to develop the skill set to come up with that plan, Ben, and I agree with you. So when things go to crap, you can always go back and rewrite a plan. And what's great about that second plan is iteratively, you're going to go through that iterative process to get better the second time you write it, if you paid attention to why it didn't work, or you developed a new plan on how to tangentially or flank your circumstances. A good example of this is when I first started getting out of the military, being a solopreneur, which you find a lot of people in today's world they're solopreneurs, right? And then there's this buzzword, in business called strategy and scaling, right? Well, you can go do those things. It's really just called growing. But when you think about what you came up with, that original plan, it developed a skill set in you to think and analyze and come up with an adequate situation. In Marine Corps, we call it operational risk management, ORM. So what this is the skill set of coming up with a theory that may work. Then you go out and you beta test or you split test and you go prove that theory, knowing that you're going to fail. So because you're going to fail, you know automatically the next plan is going to have a 1A, so to speak, right? Or almost like a choose your own adventure. It's like, or you have a team, or if you have a team, it's okay to create a plan and let it. Absolutely. What's cool is if you have a team post being a solopreneur, excuse me, let me finish my thought. So as a fitness professional, as a personal trainer, what ends up happening is you want to do two things. You want to take your time and you want to go and exchange that time for some dollars, or you can add some credentials and some certifications. It's some credentials. It's all right, Jamie. It's all right. You can pick up from where we're at right now. So what we have is we have this training tool. And so that certification process, when you go through that certification process, all of a sudden you feel like your time is worth more. When in fact, you really need to go out and find different people who are willing to pay you more, right? So that thought process of, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to get personal training clients. Yay. Except for you aren't really having the time to go back and reinvest in your education or come up with something new or try a different, way of getting results, like you full time. So what ends up happening is you can potentially have more than one person during that same amount of time. So you make more money. Group training, right? So we put that into our business. Well, it turns out that every single one of those people worked somewhere in order to pay us for that training. So why wouldn't their corporations need some type of comprehensive fitness solution, right? And so the plan to get out and be a trainer, or the plan to get out and do business, it absolutely, I want to get to your comment here in just a second, Ben. But what ends up happening is the original plan is only as good as the first time it fails. And then the second time you make a plan, really it's just reactive to that failure. And you can also take information from other failures to make your plan a little bit better. And so the quicker that you can go hurry up and fail, the quicker you can be responsive to the change that your business needs, that your customers really want to pay for, and that eventually you'll get to that desired result. So Ben wrote a comment here. He said, so many businesses also spend a lot of time writing them, and then they only sit on the shelf. The job of a leadership team is to sell the plan, repeat it, and calibrate. The best job for a CEO that I've heard is a chief repeating officer. Yeah. That's a really good summary by Ben. Ben's hit the nail right on the head. There's just, and there's a facade out there that takes place, especially in today's culture. Like, for instance, sometimes if you're self-employed, you're really unemployed until you get paid, right? But then the thought process of being unemployed, means that you're not really exchanging anything that is valuable out there in the market. If you're failing and you're figuring out a way to test that failure out in the market to actually exchange it for commerce and create some income, then you're actually adding a substantial amount of value, although you're not creating that income. So if you're self-employed or unemployed, like, which ones, you get what you focus on. If you're focused on creating value for people, it's just a matter of time before you start generating the income. And if you stop creating value for people, then there's no way that you have a chance to create income to begin with. So where the rubber meets the road is, what do the results say? And if the results aren't where you want them to be, do you have enough time to fail quick enough to actually add some substantial market value? So anyway, the point of today's talk was simply that: focus on what you can control. Ben brought up a good point, and that is, if you have a team, you don't think that you can control your team. You can try to. It depends on who you're looking for. It depends on who you're working with, excuse me. A lot of times people don't like to be controlled, right? I'm that way. I don't like to be controlled. But I also understand that my decisions put together a set of circumstances that will eventually lead to me either being controlled or allow us to take back control of life, right? And so through a series of failures, through a series of mistakes, and through a series of conversations, you will get to where your desired goal is, so long as you have that goal set out there. you don't have that goal set out there, if you don't have a date on the calendar, if you don't have some criteria around that, you don't have a chance. So thought that was helpful, or excuse me, I hope that was helpful. Thought I wanted to share a few things with you. It sounds like Chris has got a giveaway here in about 12 minutes. So apologize for not being there right in the event to go live, but you're dealing with a Marine. We're a little bit of knuckle draggers ourselves, or at least on this side of the screen it is. So anyway, appreciate your time. Ben, he also said, always remember, a lead with value and the profit will follow. Yeah. And, profit is the result of a good plan executed, not the other way around. You might make a profit without a plan, but it'll be house of cards. Yeah. The proof is in the repeatability. There was a good talk I heard a long time ago. Well, not that long ago, but it was about stability in the 21st century, about how stability used to be blockbuster, right? And now stability is, can you be flexible, but yet still have these nets that will catch people's income? Netflix was a good example of that. Well, Blockbuster was right to pass on Netflix back in the day, because that wasn't their model. They thought that they were going to go out and build this brick and mortar way, but what they didn't think about was the way that consumer behavior would change. And that's what Netflix did. But now Netflix is going to experience the same change, once VR companies figure out a way to, make the virtual reality process part of the consumer experience. So, it's just a matter of time before Netflix is the new Blockbuster, right? Because, when you build it up big enough, unless you stay agile and change, your profitability, your ability to substantiate your existence is only going to be contingent on what value you add to the market. So anyway, hope you enjoyed it. That is it. If we don't have any more questions, y'all, if we don't have any more input, Ben Kilroy's killing it over here with all types of good input. So appreciate y'all. You're welcome to message me here. Again, I'm part of this group. I'm also part of several other groups here in Facebook. My email is colon at throughputlogistics.com. We have a podcast called Knucklehead Podcast. You're welcome to look us up there on iTunes. We're on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is Knucklehead Podcast. And we're on Twitter at KnucklePod. We're on Facebook at the unofficial Knucklehead. And again, you can find us on Google Play or on iTunes. So appreciate Chris, appreciate the time. And Ben, yeah, absolutely, man. Had a great time. And we'll talk to you soon. Y'all have a great rest of the day. Remember, don't be beta. If you don't know what that means, go back and listen to what I'm talking about. Have an alpha mindset. Take control of your life. Take control of the decisions. Realize you will fail, but don't be afraid to. Hurry up and fail. Go get you some wins. We'll see you.